Great afternoon. I want to welcome you back. To start off, we're going to celebrate our progress towards solving the top 10 retinoblastoma research priorities. I will hand over to Caitlin, who's going to go over the celebration, and then we're going to continue with an awards section. So enjoy.
Thanks, Ivana. So as Ivana mentioned, we're just going to take a few minutes to briefly recap how we set our top 10 priorities and then celebrate some of the accomplishments that as a community we've collectively made over the past few years towards actualizing some of those research priorities. So traditionally, as you all know, and as Francine was mentioning a little bit this morning, research was created and led by scientists. And this means research didn't always reflect the priorities of patients or even healthcare providers. And consequently, this can reduce the impact of research for many reasons. For example, you can imagine that if patients and healthcare providers don't value a research topic, there might be difficulty recruiting a representative sample of patients to be in a study. Or there would be, of course, challenges taking good research findings and implementing them from what's called the bench to the bedside. And so priority setting is an exercise done to try and identify what research is important, relevant, and valued by all stakeholders, including the patient population and health providers. And with that knowledge, advocacy groups, research teams, funding agencies, and others can then all align their practices, including their funding practices, with the identified research priorities. And so given this, in 2016, CRRAB members were invited to take part in a priority setting partnership. It was a 3-step exercise, which is depicted on the screen. It started with an online survey that was intended to gather questions that people in the community felt were currently inadequately addressed by research. And from those survey results, we developed a working group that then ranked those survey findings by what the working group of the steering committee, and developed a short list of questions. And then we had an in-person workshop, December 2017, where we further ranked that short list and reached consensus on what we thought were the top 30 retinoblastoma research questions in Canada. So these are 30 things that by this multidisciplinary working group or steering committee, we all thought were really important to be answered, and they were ranked kind of from most important to least important. And so our emphasis is, of course, on the top 10 unanswered research questions or priorities, which are now up on the screen. And so the first column, the left column, shows the rank. So 1 being the top priority and 10 being in that list, the lowest priority. We then have the category, so the broad domain that each question falls into, followed by the actual research question that was proposed. And then in the very last 2 columns depict where that question was ranked in the first ranking that was done through an online working group, as I alluded to, and then also in the second in-person workshop where the question landed. And you'll see, I'm not going to read the questions out loud to you. We've talked with them a lot this weekend. They're on our website in many places, but I wanted to just illustrate to you that there was a few categories that were repeatedly prioritized in the top 10, including second cancers and also follow-up. However, our top research priority that we all agreed was the #1 priority was how to increase early diagnosis of retinoblastoma. So that's kind of interesting. And of course, once we've set our top 10 priorities, the next important thing is to try to disseminate those priorities so that all of these stakeholders know about them and can act alongside them. And so in 2019, a dissemination plan was developed through a series of collaborative workshops. And from this plan, a series of dissemination tools were co-developed, again, with a multidisciplinary group consisting of patients, health professionals, and researchers. And the plan included a number of different dissemination tools, which include, for instance, a social media plan that had videos for each priority. We had presentations at academic conferences. You'll see Ivana there presenting. And we also enriched our website with Serge Dorna's help to have infographics and other information on there clearly depicting each priority and where we're at with respect to that priority. And we published the findings as well in a scientific journal article. On the screen now, I'm showing a visual representation of the 10 priorities. And the takeaway message from this is just trying to illustrate that priority 1, 3, and 9 are priorities that CRRAB has initiated alongside patient and health professional partners and researchers. And I'm just going to very briefly describe the progress we've made for each of those 3 research endeavors. So priority 1, as I mentioned, is how to increase early diagnosis of retinoblastoma, which would include, of course, decreasing the age or the stage of diagnosis. So that is one of the 3 priorities. Work has started to be undertaken by CRRAB, and many of you have been part of this. And so at the 2020 Symposium, actually, there was a meeting, a working group that was formed to try and address this priority. And they were getting together and trying to brainstorm, if we're trying to address how to make retinoblastoma diagnosis happen earlier, it's important we know then what are the barriers currently facing families in terms of early diagnosis. And so the first work that's being done on this priority is a study, a mixed method study is what it's called, I know it's jargon, which is trying to understand the barriers and the facilitators to retinoblastoma diagnosis worldwide. And so the group co-developed an online survey that can be used to unpack what these barriers are and facilitators. And currently we tried to get some funding for this project, but we're not successful. But we're going to try and find another research grant that would be a good fit for this. And we're also seeking approval from a research ethics board, which is part of the research process. Everything has to be governed by a research ethics board. And so we're also currently getting the materials ready for that approval process. So that'll be a survey that will help us understand why isn't diagnosis happening earlier? And especially we want to look at that on a global scale. In addition, another idea that came out of that 2020 workshop at one of these meetings was the idea of doing a review, a systematic review, which means going and looking at all the science that's been done so far in terms of red reflex exams, because we know that red reflex examinations are one of the ways that clinicians find retinoblastoma, but we also know that there isn't a standardized protocol or practice currently in place for how those exams should be done. And we have members of our community that have shared their lived experience with us and disclosed that, you know, in their experience, perhaps the exam wasn't always done following the best protocol possible. So another project was set out to kind of go into the body of science to understand exactly what has been published to tell us about doing this exam optimally. And this work has been presented at a conference. There's a manuscript that's in preparation. But another exciting thing that will be happening at one of our workshops is a handout that we're hoping to co-create with some patient and clinician partners that will hopefully describe what is this optimal way of doing a red eye reflex exam, and that can be used to help foster some discussions with healthcare providers. So that's priority 1. So we have that online survey and then this systematic review and some other stuff that's being done thereafter. Priority 3 it was looking at psychosocial needs, and the priority was worded how to provide culturally competent social, emotional, and psychological support for retinoblastoma patients, survivors, parents, and families, both at diagnosis as well as beyond. And so in 2017, a working group was formed to develop a study to address this priority. And the working group co-designed a study that would involve uncovering, you know, if we want to improve psychosocial support and meet psychosocial needs of this community, we first need to uncover what exactly are the unmet psychosocial needs. So in 2018, this working group co-designed a study to uncover the unmet psychosocial needs of as many retinoblastoma community members as we could. And then once we better know what the unmet psychosocial needs are, develop some sort of intervention that we could pilot and study and make sure it's effective at addressing those unmet needs. And we have applied to more than 5 research grants to try and get this work funded and haven't been successful. We will not be deterred. And in fact, we scaled it back and decided we are going to do a smaller version of the study. So we're going to not worry about developing the intervention quite yet. Instead, we're just going to have an online survey that will focus on helping us quantify what are the unmet psychosocial needs of the community. And we went ahead and did that without funding because we know how important this is to the community and to all of us. And so we developed a survey with a working group, which included patient partners and clinician partners and other health providers and researchers. And recruitment for this study, which I hope you've all heard about, began in August of this year. And now as a working group, we're really focusing on how to make sure our recruitment works, how to make sure we're getting as many voices in this survey as possible, so we truly quantify the unmet psychosocial needs. Because of course, what we don't want is for the survey to only get the voices of a few and perhaps reflect that there are no unmet needs if there are in fact unmet psychosocial needs. So that's the work that's being done for priority 3. And then priority 9 is called Pathway of Care. And it was really looking at how we can provide a detailed pathway of care or a plan that would outline treatment and follow-up to retinoblastoma patients and families. And even has really been leading so much of this work. And what was done as a retinoblastoma journey map was developed through a series of workshops, again, with survivors, patients, researchers, and health professionals. And the whole notion was this journey map would be a patient-centered pathway of care. And at the 2020 Symposium, we did another workshop where we co-developed stickers that would be used as part of this journey map. So on the screen now, you can see a picture of the map and also of the stickers that were co-developed. And this journey map and the stickers were piloted then on a small number of families over the course of 6 months to get a sense of, did they find, their thoughts on the tool. And it was a quality improvement project is what it's called here, using our jargon again. And data from the pilot project has been analyzed, and it's getting ready for publication, which we'll gladly be sharing with all of you through our various means, including on our website. So that project is another project that will be discussed in one of the workshops in just a short while, and they'll be working on how to disseminate some of the findings from that great work. So that's a summary of where we're at. We're working on 3 priorities, hope to motivate others to work on the other priorities, and always eager for any thoughts or involvement. And so I'll turn it over to Eva, who's going to kindly walk us through a little bit of a celebration of our community, and then also introduce you, to remind you about the workshops that we hope you'll all take part in a moment. Thanks, Eva.
Thanks. Okay, so we're here talking about the studies that are happening and celebrating how far we've come. But the one thing we also wanted to acknowledge here is all this work wouldn't be able to happen without our community together. And we need our community to help us and move this research forward. And a lot of people step up and dedicate time, efforts in the way that they find works for them. And that's how all this is able to happen. So all those projects that Caitlin was just talking about, each step of the way, we've had patient partnership working with us. For the priority 3, we worked on selecting those tools that we will use to figure out the unmet needs. We met and discussed, what are the different journeys that we gotta make sure that we capture in these tools, and does it make sense for them to answer the questions. For the priority 9, we were thinking, does this make sense for a retinoblastoma journey? So parents gave us feedback and input, and deciding on the sticker designs, what makes sense for us to do. So I just wanted to take some time to acknowledge some. There's so many that we wanted to celebrate. I want to celebrate all of you here. I did select a few that stood out as really devoting, going a little bit above and beyond and devoting some extra time to really make some of these projects come to life. And I really hope that this will be an ongoing celebration so that each year we can celebrate new people and really identify the people in our community that do put the time and effort, just to give them a bit of a celebration, because we do appreciate it. So I'm just going to call out some names. I don't have a big trophy or anything. I just wanted to acknowledge you and celebrate you, and I will commence. So I wanted to start with our patient champions. These are members of our community with lived experience of retinoblastoma who have significantly contributed to CRRAB initiatives, all in their own ways. So I'll, in no particular order, I just wanted to share some key ones from this past year. I want to celebrate Michelle Prunier. Michelle participated in CRRAB. Thank you, Michelle. Michelle has participated in our monthly working group meetings. Monthly working group meetings. She has volunteered to do our plain language summary, and then she has shared that plain language summary during our cup of tea. So she took on that initiative. She supported the Generation the Cup of Tea podcast. So when we were one of those goals that we shared yesterday about how do we create a podcast, Michelle took the idea and gave us some feedback and what do we need to have ready and how do we produce a nice one. So thank you, Michelle. And for volunteering for the social media team. So there was many aspects that you were involved in. I also want to acknowledge Mary Connolly Wilson. Thank you, Mary. Mary, I think you were almost in all the working group meetings that we had over the year. You participated with offering a lot of feedback from lived experience, from your professional experience, and then interacting with everyone in the group and really trying to move the ideas forward that we were talking about. You created a plain language summary of a research article. You hosted a cup of tea, participated in the Priority 3 working group. So thank you, Mary. You really helped move a lot of CRAB activities forward this year, and we really appreciate it. Thank you. I also want to celebrate Talene, who's here with us as well. Thank you, Talene. So I have very similar, again, topics that we cover for our patient partners that we're celebrating, but everyone who comes to our working groups and has participated has brought their own touch and knowledge to it. So Talene has extensive knowledge, more so than I in social media, and always teaches us something new. How do we make this better, and how can we communicate with their community better through social media? And always gives us really valuable feedback about improving our projects and research that will be helpful to reach more families. Talene has also created plain language summary, hosted a cup of tea. This is not a very light work that you could just pick up and just do in an afternoon. So it takes a little bit of dedication. I very happily offer guidance and support, and we work through it together. But why I'm acknowledging this is just, it is an additional activity that these participants have taken on and really enjoyed doing, I would say. So thank you for doing that. Talene also advocates for CRAB on social media and has participated in our Priority 3 working group. A very lovely long list of things that you've helped us with. Thank you, Talene. We also have research champions. So our team is full of partnerships who all provide equal support and help to move research forward. We want to acknowledge our researchers who significantly contribute to CRAB initiatives. And I'd like to celebrate Jennifer Steeves on this. Jennifer participates in our monthly working group meetings. She has partnered with a patient to help create a plain language summary and partnered to make a cup of tea. She offered a lot of support to her patient partner to explain the research from the article, provide additional materials to use in the cup of tea, and make sure that research is nicely understood at the cup of tea presentation. Jennifer Steeves also includes patient partners in research and really embodies that CRAB mentality. For health professional champions, health professionals who are engaged in the retinoblastoma community who have significantly contributed to CRAB initiatives, I would really like to celebrate Catherine Payton on this. Catherine's joining us online, but I wanted to share that Catherine is a very strong supporter of CRAB projects. She attends our monthly working group meetings. She was the first cup of tea presenter. She partnered with a patient and also not only helped understand a research article, but provided information, how do we understand research articles? And that's part of her presentation that we have on our YouTube channel. You could see her personal perspective of how to read a research article. So it's a really nice addition to that package of the cup of tea. And every time we have something that's happening with CRAB projects, we share it with Catherine Payton, and she says, how can I help? She likes to share the information with the other clinicians and offers feedback of what worked for her to other clinicians so they can help make that happen as well. So thank you, Catherine. We also have Beverly Griffiths, who was with us here yesterday. I would like to celebrate her. Yeah, I wanted to wave to her. There, Beverly, I see you. But thank you, Beverly. I met Beverly in a personal level at the Washington conference where I got interested in research. And what Beverly showed me was that there's such a passion for families and parents to be involved. And it's not just you have a clinic and you're there to get your clinic done. There's a personal approach, which is what I appreciate out of Beverly's interactions each time. And whenever we have something, Beverly, we have a new booklet that we like to share in clinic. And Beverly's always open and receptive to CRAB projects. She enjoys coming to our meetings. And I want to celebrate that about her. So thank you, Beverly. We have Alyssa Ulster as well. I think she's online. Hi, Alyssa. Sorry, camera's this way. Alyssa has, this year, I think I've seen her the most coming out to these, our monthly working groups, partnering with research to do plain language summary and doing the cup of tea with a patient partner and really helping to explain the sort of the articles and make sure that it's well understood with our community. Alyssa has partnered with us on our Priority 3 working group, and she's really passionate about CRAB projects and always trying to find a way, how can she help support them and share them with her family. So thank you so much, Alyssa. We really appreciate all the partnership. Okay, I have a special acknowledgement. So sometimes there's a way that some participants are able to find a way for themselves to be involved in CRAB and move research forward, maybe in a way that we never really thought. And I wanted to celebrate Serge for this. Serge has, thank you, Serge. Serge has figured out a way how he would like to be involved. And we mentioned a few times of how the website wouldn't be able to move forward without Serge's help. But it's a great example that we were able to work together and find a spot within CRAB that worked with Serge's interests and skills that also helped move CRAB projects forward. So thank you so much for your ongoing help and support with the website. It would not look like this without you. Thank you. And we want to acknowledge that there's special partnerships that are needed to move CRAB projects forward, but not only just to move the projects forward, to support the retinoblastoma community. And the partnership that has helped us the most and has had the most impact on the retinoblastoma community, I want to acknowledge the Canadian Retinoblastoma Society and Genevieve for representing. So if we do a quick round of applause for Canadian Retinoblastoma Society. Every time that we have something, and we let Genevieve know, hey, there's a symposium. Can you share this with your community? And we do see that you post it on the social media and you'll let your community know. And it's that partnership that we are able to reach as many people and let the community know that what's going on. Canadian Retinoblastoma Society is always in support of the research projects that we're doing. So many times we have shared the initiatives that we're working on and asking, hey guys, how do you look at this project we're working on? Can we support us by writing a support letter? And the response we get back is yes, sure. So that's the kind of relationship that we value, and we want to celebrate that you're helping CRRAB along the way. Thank you so much. And just to highlight that, Canadian Retinoblastoma Society were one of the original funders of the inaugural event, which helped get CRRAB started. So thank you, Canadian Retinoblastoma Society and Genevieve. Okay, so thank you guys for this celebration. This is just our first year. Next year, we're gonna have a whole new group of people we'll be celebrating. And I'm hopeful that we'll be making some new connections and new initiatives. So thank you guys for everything.
Great.
Oh. So we're gonna move on to our research workshops. I'm gonna pass it over to Helen to review and direct us to the next steps of how do we attend them.
Great. Can I say that? Great. Thank you. Thanks, Ivana, for that lovely celebration, and congratulations to all those acknowledged and those unacknowledged for still being here and supporting us. And this could be you next year. Okay, so our next session is the research workshops. And I'd like to sort of point to what we mean by research. And as Francine mentioned today, there's different ways to participate in research. And I just wanted to throw up an image of the research life cycle, because sometimes we think that research is just conducting experiments, but the research cycle starts from coming up with an idea or concept. And so that's really where your stories are important, where what other things you've read or do in your professional life are important. And so that's when we start with the research cycle. And from those ideas or concepts, we then develop a research question. So something that could be answered. And so this is also related to our top 10 research priorities. So we came up with those 10 priorities because we had ideas, we developed research questions out of them, and then we prioritized them. We came up with what's the most important of this list and where do we start. And so that's the first sort of phase. The next phase is to design the research projects. And as you saw, some of our workshops or our partnered projects are in this design phase. We're figuring out what are the methods we're going to use, what are the ways we're going to collect data, where are we collecting that? Is that from patients themselves? Is that from the medical record? And then once we have that designed research, we have to seek funding. And you heard a lot of, we tried to get funding and didn't get funding, but we keep trying. The feedback we get from funders as to why or why not it's funded helps us make better studies. But also for a rare cancer like retinoblastoma, often the response we get is, you're too rare for us to fund. There's limited funding to go around. So that's why it's also important to think about the piece that goes alongside research, which is advocacy. And our group is really good. Canadian Retinoblastoma Society is really good about getting the word out there of why retinoblastoma is important. And actually a little known or little appreciated fact outside of this group is that retinoblastoma research helped set the stage for all of cancer research. That was early discoveries of the RB1 gene, the importance of genetic testing for retinoblastoma, really set the stage for understanding that cancer is a disease of the genome. Genetics is integral. Alongside or after seeking funding, we go through this ethical process. And so seeking ethics approval is a way to ensure that the research is causing no undue harm to the human participants. So it's a checkpoint. It goes through a process usually at a hospital or a research institution that checks the study design for potential harmful effects on the participants. Even if this is going through not interacting physically with the person, but going through your medical record, it goes through research review to be absolutely sure that even in looking at the data that's already in the hospital, this won't cause any undue harm, that the ways we're collecting that data is being protected and stored in ways that are safe. So after all that sort of preparatory work, I'd say, then we actually get into doing the research. So collecting that data, analyzing it, interpreting the results, and drawing conclusions. That's one of our projects, Priority 9, as we'll talk about, is sort of there. And once we've conducted that experiment on this very well thought out project, we can disseminate or share those results. And that's really exciting because we have to think about who needs to know about these results. How do we best inform people of those results? And the real reason we're doing that is because the next phase is changing practice. So what needs to change in healthcare, in our society, depending what the target of our research was. And then once that practice change happens, we evaluate it and we learn how it works in the real world and maybe ways to tweak it. And it's a cycle because after we've gone through all those steps, we come up with new ideas and keep improving upon the process. So the reason I'm showing you this is to kind of orient you with which phase of the research life cycle each of our workshops is connected to. So the first workshop is the Priority 1 workshop, which is focused on early diagnosis. The group here, if you're interested, will go to Event Room 1, or those of you online can pick the Priority 1 breakout room and go there. So that'll show up for you as a choice in a second. And essentially that group is focusing on ideation, so thinking of new ways to probe this question, as well as disseminating results. So looking at, I believe, how we inform parents of what is important in a red eye reflex exam and creating a tool that can be used to share that important knowledge. Because we've got a lower number than expected yesterday, we're going to skip the Priority 3 psychosocial care workshop, but we will be soliciting emails from you guys. So if you're interested in this one, essentially we're in the design research process, but we want to design the particular part of the research process, which is about recruiting individuals into the study. So that survey that we mentioned is meant to gain a variety of perspectives on what are the psychosocial needs. We want to make sure it reaches enough people and that people are enticed to participate. And so we want to make a few recruitment videos, think of new recruitment methods, and we're hoping to host a workshop later. If you're interested in attending that workshop, please sign up at the front desk, or if you're online, put your email in the chat and Farheen will collect them and let you know about when that workshop will take place. So the second workshop we'll have today is the Priority 9 or Pathway of Care. And so this one was that Pathway of Care tool with the stickers that was evaluated in clinic. We heard from families how it worked, how it didn't work, what they liked about it, what they didn't like about it. And so now we're at the point of sharing those results with both a scientific audience and a non-scientific audience. So today's workshop will focus on how do we share the results of that project with a non-scientific audience so that it's understood and its importance come out. And so the Pathway of Care Priority 9 workshop will happen in Event Room 2. So Priority 1 is an option in Event Room 1. So Priority 1, Event Room 1, and Priority 9, Event Room 2. And both those rooms are on the second floor. So you can come down and exit out this way. Anything? Yes?
So for Priority 3,
yes.
I received an email from Launch 2, and I'm going to do that video.
Oh.
Like, I'm going to do it.
Today.
As you know.
Yes, I know. Social media.
So I'll do that, but for now, too, I'll do that workshop. I mean, obviously.
You're in it.
But I have that email, so like I can get working on that on Monday.
Oh, great. Okay, fantastic.
But for Pathway of Care, is that for like the sticker?
The sticker one that, yes, exactly.
I'll do that then for now, because that one's not happening, because that will be just an email that will go out again.
This one here, yes.
The email that I received,
The correct, yeah. You're good.
I'll do it as soon as I can.
Fantastic. So Priority 3 workshop, Caitlin has your name, that'll be done. And anybody else who also wants to help with the Priority 3 survey, we'll host a separate workshop just because we're smaller in number than we anticipated this afternoon. And we don't want the working groups to be too small. Any other questions? So I'll put that up there again here. So Priority 1, Event Room 1, Priority 9, Event Room 2. Great. Thanks, everyone.